Thanks for joining us, everyone. This episode of Skirmish Supremacy is brought to you again by Death Ray Designs. You can check out all their awesome products for all your wargaming terrain and basing needs at deathraydesigns.com. Do not forget to check out their Kickstarter. Right now, they're running a dual Kickstarter. It is Black Site X and Rapid Vanguard. Perfect terrain for your 40K games, your Infinity games, or any other type of sci-fi game in between. You can check that out at Kickstarter.com and look up Black Site X. That's Black SITEX. You can find it right in there. They're about halfway through and halfway funded. They could definitely use your support. This episode is also brought to you by my local gaming store, Gigabytes Cafe, located here in the metro Atlanta area. If ever you're in town and you want to go in for one of the best gaming places in the area, and you're hungry, and you want to get a sandwich, you want to get a coffee, you can get it all there. On top of that, you could buy just about anything else you want, from role-playing games, board games, miniatures, hobby supplies, and I can go on and on and on all day, but we don't have that much time. Thanks for tuning back into Skirmish Supremacy. Stay tuned for the episode. All right, welcome back to another episode of Skirmish Supremacy. I am here today with Death Ray Designs owner and creator, Austin Thompson. Austin, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Tim?
Doing excellent. So we're trying something a little different for my listeners out there. So if this episode sounds a little odd, I apologize. But the speakers and the microphone recording on my typical laptop setup is being an asshole. So we're actually doing this from my phone, which seems to be working okay so far. So we're going to roll with it. So anyway, kind of going on past that, Austin, tell everybody a little bit about your business and a little bit about your Kickstarter we've got going on. I know I've been peddling it the last couple of episodes and trying to do my best to get everybody to go and check out all of your awesome shit. But let's hear it from the actual creator's mouth.
All right, so Death Ray Designs is a rename of our former incarnation, which is Brush for Hire. Brush for Hire was started as a YouTube channel that morphed into a commission painting service that morphed into making terrain and game accessories. And we found that a lot of people were really, confused, or people who weren't super familiar with our product line just assumed that we were only commission painting. So we said, you know what? You're right. Brush for Hire does sound like we just do painting. And so we came up with a name, and it took us a while to actually do the full rebrand. But we decided that during our Kickstarter campaign was the best time, because it would be one of the times that we'd be most in contact with our community. And so we pulled the trigger on that, and we launched a Kickstarter where we are offering 2 brand new lines of terrain that have been in development for way longer than I care to admit. One of them is Rapid Vanguard, which is some sci-fi gothic buildings. They are intended to look like they could be dropped from orbit. They're kind of an advanced advanced offensive or advanced defensive battlements. And we tried to make everything look as, fortified structurally, so that it does look like it could be dropped from orbit, at least, in the super far-flung science fiction land of games like Warhammer 40K or Mercs or Infinity. And our second line is the Black Site X line, which is a lot of modular catwalks and platforms, and we really wanted it to be as user-friendly as possible. We wanted pieces to go together easily, be stable, and still be able to be taken apart quickly without damaging the terrain, trying to, press fit a whole lot of parts together. We spent a lot of time working on the mechanics behind that and making sure that it was going to be as easy and fun fun to use as possible, and make sure that it looks good too. So that's where we are now. Right now, as of the recording of this, we're at about 13,000 out of our 20,000 goal. I feel pretty confident we're gonna hit funding, and we keep releasing a handful of cool new things a couple times a week to keep people interested and really keep it lively.
Awesome. Well, to be honest with you, man, I'm really excited. I've obviously I've been a fan of your stuff for a long time. We've known each other for quite a while. So, yeah, to anybody listening, there is a bit of a bias to this because of the fact that I know Austin. So, whatever, you're going to deal with it. But seriously, though, he makes great terrain. So, anybody listening, definitely check out his Kickstarter. I know that you've heard it. You've heard me plug it every single episode. First, sponsorship that I plug out there. So, this episode is just giving you guys more of an in-depth look at what he's got going on instead of just listening to my ass talk about it the whole time. So, you were talking a little bit about the Black Site X, and you were talking a little bit about the Rapid Vanguard. And I know that you and I were talking a little bit ago. You said you've got some more stretch goals coming out. Do you want to give any spoilers as to what you have planned in the near future?
Well, sure. One of the things that has been very public that we've done so far is we've got a prototype generator that stylistically looks like it should go with Rapid Vanguard, but I'm of the opinion that it could fit into the Black Site X terrain set as well. We've been trying to come out with a handful of pieces that could kind of mesh the two together, and we've got a few ideas to do that. One of the things that we're going to be working on in the near future is we're trying to make a couple of platforms that I guess serve to make some of the smaller pieces a little bit bigger, and I guess more or less what they're doing is linking multiple of these smaller pieces together. So our cryo tube, we're looking at making a big scaffolding system that will hold multiples of them to make it look kind of like a cloning farm or just a thing of tanks to store all kinds of fluids in. Because the cryo tanks, I feel like, are one of our most multi-purpose pieces of terrain right now as far as hobby goes. You can make it a cryo tank, you can make it some sort of like healing vat, you could fill it with some sort of toxic waste. You can do a whole lot of stuff with that piece. And the thing that I guess I like the least about it is that it doesn't have enough presence on the board by itself. It's a cool piece, but I always feel like it needs to be sitting on something or next to something or near something to make it feel a little bit more substantial. So we're just going to try to do that with some raised platforms and things. I also thought that we could do something similar for that generator. And one of the added benefits of both of these is it would get it up off the table just enough that you'd have a cavity under the catwalk or the platform where you could put LEDs or other things to light these things up and make them look even more interesting.
Nice. Yeah, I know you and I were just talking about that just before we started on the podcast. So, so you've got all the additionals planned.
Right.
I know that one of the big things that has been key for me and pretty huge, I think, for a lot of people out there, especially if anybody who's listening to this owns a game store, is the fact that you are actually really supporting the idea of a retail-driven Kickstarter. So you actually have a package on there for retailers, and I think that's exceedingly important, especially since a lot of retailers are now looking at Kickstarter as something that's bad. So, yeah, I think that's a great start to getting stores back into trusting people who are doing a Kickstarter. Because ultimately, I mean, you don't sound like you're doing this for a cash grab. And since I know you well enough, I know you're not doing it for a cash grab. This is for you in the long term.
Right. Our goals with this Kickstarter, I've gotten lots of comments on Facebook and other social media about basically, why are you doing this as a Kickstarter? I want it right now. That's a typical thing to see from people who are excited about your product is they want it sooner, so they're going to question your decision making, which is fine. That's their prerogative. But we really are doing this for, in my opinion, all the right reasons, as opposed to what you have deemed as a cash grab. Kickstarter, in my opinion, in this type of crowdfunding, is all about trying to do something bigger. And we're not just releasing products and using it as a pre-order system. We're really trying to do something that otherwise would be cost prohibitive for us to do, or would take much longer to do. And we think that the community might want to see benefits from this idea earlier. And that idea is that we would like to buy a whole bunch of new equipment that's going to make us faster and be able to produce more terrain, which means that we can keep costs on those kits down, which means that we can pass some of that on to the customer, and our profit margins can be large enough that we can sell to distribution, which means our products in stores near our customers, and they don't have to worry about ship time or paying for shipping or any of that mess. It'll be right there. They can go and pick it up in their local shops, and we at that point be supporting the local shops. And like you mentioned before, we do have a pledge level for retailers, as I think that's super important. Retailers right now, from what I understand, they hate Kickstarter. They hate Kickstarter for so many very good reasons. You've got companies who do all their pre-ordering through Kickstarter for all their new products, which means that they're direct selling at a huge discount to all of their customers. So I can't tell you the number of times that I've bought into Kickstarters and realized after the fact that I have so very much more than I could ever use in any game. So I'm giving it away to all my friends. I'm like, hey, come play this game with me. I have 4 whole armies. I don't know why I bought all these. They were just cheap and I bought them. So that's not only me that's not buying anything because I have enough. That's probably 3 other people who now have enough stuff to play. So you don't even get that secondary hit from people are getting interested and they're going to get their friends interested. Because as soon as they get interested, I'm just going to give or sell my excess stuff to them, which takes away from the retail market. You got everything direct sell at a huge discount, and now the market's flooded with this stuff, and nobody's interested in going to their stores and finding more stuff.
Right.
So not only are we not not doing this for what I consider to be the wrong reasons, we also want to include stores in this so they can get these products on their shelves the same time that everybody else is getting their stuff. And to be honest, we're not big enough to even really worry about ruining the retail market for our products right now. I mean, realistically, we're going to sell a good amount of this on Kickstarter. But I think that from my experience, where a lot of people don't know who we are and haven't seen our products yet, and when they do, they like them. And when they like them, they have a fair chance of buying them. Our market share is so small compared to some of the big boys, Simon, Mantic, all of the other game companies that are just huge right now. They reach tons of people, whereas we reach some, which is fine. We're still growing, and I accept that is a part of doing business. We're a much younger company than the big boys in the industry at the moment. So we still have some growing to do. And but all that to say, I'm not sure if there's anything that we can do that would ruin our retail market at the moment, unless we just out of nowhere got $1 million, which I wouldn't argue with, but I don't think it's very likely.
Yeah, that's very true. I've had my struggles with Kickstarters over the years when it comes time to the cash grab. And, I know to any of my listeners out there that, you probably listened to the last couple episodes. I had Awaken Realms on, just this previous one. And I've got some other people coming up with Kickstarters in the next few episodes. And I always seem to ask them the same question. What do you plan on doing after the Kickstarter's done? Do you plan on supporting the local retailers? Do you have local retailers right now that are excited about your product and are helping promote it? Do you have a plan as to how you're going to get it into distribution? So, I ask a lot of those questions just from, working in the gaming industry and seeing so many companies that start a Kickstarter and they're so Kickstarter focused that a lot of retailers and distributors just stop trusting them. So, I always, especially with the smaller independent guys like yourself, my thought is I want to see you guys grow. Obviously the whole purpose of the podcast is to get your voices out there so people know who you are, so you can become eventually one of the big guys. So yeah. I always try to make sure that I don't want to say that I'm coaching you guys into doing it the right way, but I definitely want to see you guys have that lasting, staying power. So as far as that goes for me, it really comes down to making sure that the local retailers trust you and the local retailers are carrying your product, and that, they almost make you one of their standards when it comes time to either miniatures or terrain or whatever else you're making at the time that you're using in the store. So to me, it's really key. So, again, kudos to you for going out of your way and making sure that there is something like that for the distributors and, the retailers. So, if you guys are out there listening and you are looking at backing Austin's stuff, you're looking at ordering some stuff from Death Ray Designs, remember to ask at your local retailer too, because once this Kickstarter is over, as Austin says in the beginning video, which you guys should go and watch, he definitely talks about the fact that he wants to get this into your local retailers. So the more you start asking your local retailers for his stuff now, the sooner he will be able to go ahead and get stuff cut for distribution, so that way you can pick it up at a game store instead of ordering it from him directly. Not that he minds either way, but ordering it from the game store means that he is going to have more longevity overall.
Right. Even though, every person you add into the process, takes a little bit of the profits, it's better to have a retail store in the mix because they've got face time with, way more people than just one. Having one good customer that is an individual gamer hobbyist, and having one customer that is a store, even though the store is buying for much, lower prices, they're going to be buying in a huge volume compared to an individual customer, at least, in most cases. I'm sure there are exceptions on both sides.
Oh, yeah, of course.
You bring up, or you got close to another point that I meant to make before and didn't. One of the other benefits for a lot of Kickstarters is that you're going to get those products ahead of everybody else. And cutting retail locations out of it means that they're not going to get stuff on first wave. They're not going to get necessarily like preferential, shipping times. They're going to get it after all of the backers get it. So, when everybody's excited about it and everybody's, showing it off on Facebook and Twitter and stuff, it would be nice for stores to also have the opportunity to have access to those things, as opposed to saying, I got this cool new thing, it's August, I just got it in the mail, and then retailers aren't going to even be able to start having it shipped to them until November. Like some of the buzz around it that, everybody could be benefiting from, is already dying down 2 or 3 months later. It's not to say that the product is dead 2 or 3 months later. It's just that you could piggyback so much more on the initial interest and buzz around items than what a lot of people are doing right now.
Yeah, definitely. So we've mentioned quite a few things about the Kickstarter. So, you're still a fairly new company. I know you've been around for 4 years. You're still getting the name out there. Why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the stuff that Death Ray Designs has to offer right now on the website?
Okay. We have a lot of different types of terrain. One of our specialties, I guess, as with a lot of laser cut companies, line, which is just high-tech sci-fi buildings. Most of it's pretty locked together, modular kind of an affair. We also have a few kits that are, well, I guess, they're not in the main in-city line, I guess, or they're not in the same main in-city style, which is a lot of honestly kind of blocky pod things that stack and look like oversized shipping containers. But we do have some actual to-scale shipping container style stuff that I thought was pretty innovative, at least. I was proud of myself with it. We made essentially a hard card box that you apply a whole bunch of MDF detail onto, and it's just as rigid as a full piece of MDF terrain because the top and the sides are all reinforced at the corners and the edges and everything. But I love being able to do things like that where we find a way to kind of take a non-damaging shortcut that that ends up saving customers tons of money. Because looking around, I was looking to see, like, okay, shipping containers, what do they cost? And everywhere they were, $10 or more for the most part. And, even with our in-city stuff that is very shipping container shaped, they were $10 to $14 a piece. And you need lots of shipping containers for a cool, shipping depot board or something. So we figured this thing out and ended up being able to produce them in packs for $5. They came out to be $5 a piece in the pack. I don't know. I always like talking about those ones because I have a lot of fun working out all the problems, and I think they turn out really well. So aside from our in-city things, which is all sort of clean, high-tech sci-fi stuff, I guess depending on how you paint it, we also have Rust Point, which is one of our favorites at the moment. Not necessarily our favorites, but our customers' favorites.
Mm-hmm. Well, with a name that amazing, I mean, it's kind of hard.
Full disclosure, Tim came up with that name.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So Rust Point is a set of shantytown terrain. That was at least within the laser cut terrain industry, I guess. Within that community, I couldn't find anything that was really particularly shantytown looking. So we developed this line, and it's a pretty simple line, but it's made to have lots of customizability when you're building it. All of the buildings are a little off kilter. None of the angles are quite right angles, and you have kind of an MDF shell that has some panel lines cut into it to make it look like a whole bunch of boards of plywood or something stuck together, and then there's a whole bunch of details that you layer on top of that. You get a little sheet of details like windows and doors and metal stripping and all kinds of other things, and then a sheet of corrugated plastic, or plastic that looks like corrugated steel. And so you just cut that up into whatever kind of chunks you want and glue that on. And, after you do all that, you have a really nice layered, detailed building. And I think almost every kit in the line is $11 or less a piece. And it's big, chunky buildings. We also have a whole bunch of scatter terrain with that I really enjoy. We got, it's going to sound like just silly, mundane stuff, but I don't know, something so satisfying about it at that scale. Bricks and cinder blocks, pallets, and piles of tires and all kinds of fun stuff. Very, very post-apocalyptic, almost Mad Max feeling at times, but I think that it goes really well with the shantytown.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the things that I've liked about a lot of your terrain, and you and I have talked about it numerous times on the phone in the past, is the fact that, for me, MDF terrain, I've been less than impressed with it. I know I'm probably going to get some hate comments over this, but most MDF terrain I've been very, very unimpressed with, and a lot of it does come from the fact that, I've done commission building on terrain in the past, so I always look at something and go, okay, so if I just paid, even $40 for what is essentially, when I back up a foot and a half away from the table, a wooden box. It has no texture. It has, no real detail outside of the etching. I have a hard time with that because I look at that and go, wow, so I just paid $30 for a wooden shoebox with an extra strip at the top and a little bit of etching design, and fantastic. So I could have spent $30 on a new pair of shoes and gotten a nice pair of shoes to stand comfortably and gotten my terrain piece. So
wow, that's getting harsh.
It is, but MDF has come a long way, and I know that's one of the things you and I have talked about quite a bit is that those tiny details, that those little bits of extra texture is what really brings those to life. Like, at the end of the day, any piece of terrain you buy is a box. It doesn't matter if it's a GW kit, it doesn't matter if it's a resin kit. It is a box or a blocky thing in the middle of the table. The difference between the plastic and the resin kits is they have the texture built into it. MDF, you can't really do that, so you have to add layers in order to give it that texture. So having those little details like you put in there really helps it out.
Yeah. I mean, that's always been one of our chief concerns when designing new kits, is more than even texture is silhouette. Does it look like a big square? If it's starting to look a little too square, we got to figure out some way to either round it out, make it more interesting, make it, a little bit more misshapen, or at least a more, recognizable sort of silhouette. Because honestly, when it comes to MDF terrain, there's a lot of detail you can do, but sometimes you just come up against that wall where you're like, okay, well, I guess we're going to have to do something very optical illusion-y to make this work. And to be honest, there's a lot you can do within that realm.
Oh, yeah.
The stuff that we've done for Rapid Vanguard, we did have, or we do have, layers of material that give it raised surface detail, which is nice, but also we concentrated a lot on the silhouette, and having all the buttresses on the sci-fi gothic stuff gives you the ability to kind of shape the perception of the building through silhouette, even though a lot of the walls are still vertical. You can manipulate it to look not boxy by having pieces jutting out of it that help you make your viewer's eye think that there's more there than there is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not. This isn't a trick. It's not a prank we're pulling or some kind of practical joke. This is the way that aesthetics works. This is the way that architecture works and sculpture. You're trying to lead the viewer's eye to where you want it to go. And we take that kind of approach with our terrain, which may sound a little overwrought, like we're thinking that our terrain is some kind of high art. But we're applying the principles that we know from other areas in our careers and education to wargaming terrain, which hopefully sets us apart to a degree. But the raised detail is also a huge part of what makes these pieces different. When you have raised detail on a laser cut kit, it means you suddenly have access back to a lot of things that you couldn't do before, or would be very difficult to do. Trying to line highlight flat things on a flat surface is always more difficult. Dry brushing a flat surface is impossible. If you got no detail sticking up, then there's nothing to catch the paint as the brush goes over it. It becomes almost impossible at that point. So having raised detail gives you back one of the tools that I think is probably in every hobbyist tool belt, especially one of the early ones that you learn is dry brushing. It's like magic. all of the raised parts just get lighter, and it doesn't take a whole lot of work. Dry brushing is easy and fast, and it's one of the reasons why everybody does it, as opposed to all wet blending, all edge highlighting all the time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's one thing I've noticed with a lot of the terrain companies out there is they always show their stuff with like a lot of gorgeous, blends and highlights, and you look at it and go, that was done with an airbrush. Well, that's cool, but not everybody out there, especially if they're just getting started into the hobby, or if they just don't have space or just haven't wanted to learn, don't have access to an airbrush, and not everybody wants to, paint in that way. So having a kit that allows people to use their standard brushes without having to do some fancy, I guess, adding texture where there is none is really important.
Right. Whatever it was that I was about to say went right out of my head. I'm sure it'll come back to me in a second here.
I promise everybody, he has not been drinking. We're doing this at about 11:26 Eastern time, so
yeah,
in a half hour maybe. That's the way we do things in the South.
Yeah. there's no accounting for time of day itself. Okay, so I'm gonna say something that may sound insane. I like to take a page from GW's book on one particular aspect. Now, if you recall back in the 90s and 80s, at least to the degree of what was considered amazing paint job at that point, box art tends to be really overblown, and they've done some really incredible stuff that would be very difficult for your average hobbyist to do.
Yes.
In the same way, I feel like a lot of MDF terrain makers right now is almost like overcompensating for the fact that their buildings are so lacking in three-dimensional detail. It's all sort of surface detail. Their paint jobs, like you mentioned before, are amazing. I'm not pointing fingers and naming names or anything here, but I feel like it's almost tantamount to like misrepresentation of the product. I mean, it's a two-dimensional surface that's looking for all intents and purposes like it has three dimensions because of the optical illusion painting that you've done. And that's not to say that you can't put a good paint job on it, but let me get back to my GW comment. I found more recently the packaging photos that they have on all their kits look a lot less award-winning now, and I think that is on purpose and a smart idea. Instead of freaking out a new hobbyist saying like, "Well, I got to make it look like that." How do I do that? They put something that's a little easier to attain on their packaging. And, partly because, we don't do 1,000 hours of wet blending on a piece of terrain before we photograph because, let's be honest here, I don't have time for that. We've got too much stuff going on.
We all have full-time jobs.
Yeah. We put a good paint job, one that we're proud of, and looks good in photography on our terrain. But we also try to keep it, simple. Make it look good, but don't make it so complicated that nobody could possibly, duplicate it. I want to show you the paint job that you are likely to be able to get, or something close to it. And honestly, a lot of our kits, even though this is a point that we should make more use of, I guess, or advertise more, show how to do it better, because we really haven't at all, is that most of our kits are fairly easy to choose a color scheme, assemble the parts for that kit, and don't glue them all together, and just paint them separately and stick them together, and now you've got a three-color color scheme, and you didn't even have to use any masking tape or even break out a single brush. You got it all with rattle cans so far, and now all you have to do is weather it. with rattle cans and then assemble it. So your stuff is customized, it's tailored to what you want, and you didn't have to spend a million hours on it, you know?
Yeah, so you want to give them the ability to take 5 minutes, learn something new, and then go to town.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I would like for an entire table of terrain from us to only take you a day or an afternoon to paint. I think an afternoon is a little bit optimistic, but if you have a solid Saturday or something, then I don't see why you couldn't have a whole bunch of stuff done. Right now we're in the middle of painting up some demo or promo terrain for Dave over at Mini Wargaming, and this first couple sets that we're doing in Space Wolves colors, as per his request. And we found that it is incredibly easy just to break out all the, assemble the buttresses and then lay out everything else and spray those the colors we want them to be. Black for the insides of the windows, black for the buttresses, blue-gray for a lot of the paneling stuff, and bright yellow for the door. And blammo. Afterwards, the only thing you've got to worry about is adding some weathering, or if you want to do some airbrushing or some chipping or whatever. I mean, but honestly, at that point, especially if you're using an airbrush, you're spending 5 extra minutes per building, throwing a little bit of shading in around the bottom or inside of creases and details, and a little bit of chipping on the edges, and that's that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We want it to be easy and fun.
Right. So I know that with some of your kits, you've actually released some videos showing people how to paint it up quickly with rattle cans. Yeah. Yeah,
sure.
you have that. Do you have that linked to Death Ray Designs, or is that just up on your separate YouTube channel?
It is on the Brush for Hire YouTube channel. I'm not really sure what we're going to do with that channel yet. I don't think it's going anywhere. We can't really change the name on it, but we're also retaining the Brush for Hire name for all of our painting stuff anyway. So if we're doing a lot of painting things, you might as well just keep the channel on Brush for Hire.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, we have I think how to paint the wood plank inserts with just rattle cans, and the rust point video has been shot but isn't uploaded yet, which is essentially just how to paint any rust point anything with only rattle can. And I think that one's going to be really helpful, because I mean there's nothing special in it, but it's just general practice, quick tip kind of stuff that will help you paint and assemble or mask and spray paint. Not only our kits, but just about anything.
Yeah, that's true. So, yeah, I guess you filming the Rust Point set, that's actually news to me. So when should we expect that one up online?
Honestly, I'm probably not going to get to it until after the Kickstarter is done. So probably at least 3 or 4 weeks from now.
Okay. So as much as he just got everybody out there listening excited about watching another one of his videos, he decided to take all your hopes and dreams and dash them against the rocks because apparently he's an asshole. So,
yeah.
So,
I am. I'm sorry, everybody.
No, it's totally cool, man. I understand, because I know that right now, after you've been talking with our buddy Derek, which, spoiler alert for anybody who's listening, Derek will be on here at some point, talking and babbling and going on about stuff. Derek worked with me over at Cool Mini or Not, and he definitely knows his way around Kickstarters in the gaming industry, so he's probably one of the biggest experts on it when it comes time to that in the United States. So, usually if you have any type of advice, he's the guy to talk to, and you should really listen to him. So, taking Derek's advice, I know Austin has been spending the last, what would you say, probably this last week, just really whoring out his product all over the interwebs. It doesn't matter if it's on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.
Yeah.
Handing out flyers in the local neighborhood.
It's been almost another full-time job on top of everything else. It's just doing all the social media press stuff. Once I got it rolling, it wasn't so bad, but coming up with all the templates for
We sound like a couple of old bastards.
I know.
You damn kids with your Instagram and your pictures and shit.
Yeah, I don't know. Like until I really started going, all in on Brush for Hire now, Death Ray Designs. Social media was it wasn't very important to me, and honestly, through the necessity of using social media to promote our business and do all kinds of other things, I've been able to keep up with so much more of the community stuff, and with a lot of my friends who don't live, locally near me. And it's actually been a really surprising and pleasant experience for the most part. Yeah, you get crazy Facebook stuff going on every once in a while, but I get to chat with a lot of my friends that normally I would only see at conventions and things. So that's always a bonus.
Yeah, that is definitely the plus of social media. Because we're far past the days of writing letters to one another and asking, how everything's going for a month at a time. Now we can just pick up a phone or see it on social media. I'm surprised, honestly, kind of switching topics here, getting away from your Kickstarter a little bit, but surprised you haven't been posting pictures of your Friday night game nights.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I just never thought that anybody would care. I don't know. I just kind of always assumed that would be boring for everybody, but I guess everybody else does it. Why not?
Exactly. Join the Me Too crowd. I mean, shit.
Yeah, no.
I mean, I can't tell you the last time I actually sat down and played a game where I wasn't like learning a new system or, something along those lines. My game time lately has been taken up with lots and lots and lots of model prep and painting. My game time has been nil. So, yes, if I get a chance to live vicariously through you who every Friday night games, shit, man, I'd do it.
Well, like this past Friday, I played probably the longest game of Infinity ever. Back in the 2000s, I got my younger brother Harrison involved in Warhammer 40K, and he really enjoyed it. He played Chaos Space Marines, and we kind of went our separate ways on it. I kind of stopped playing, and then he said, well, if you're not playing, then I'm going to find something else to do. And he went out and did completely other stuff, became an auto mechanic, and moved on with his life. And I just kind of got stuck in wargaming forever because I love it and I wouldn't do anything else if I could. But recently I've been able to rope him back into playing war games, and the one that caught his eye, partly because I kind of led him to it because I wanted more people to play with, is Infinity. And we started doing some play testing. He's trying to figure out a list, and we're going to get him an army. He's leaning towards Ariadna. And back when I started playing Ariadna in, I guess it was second ed, I didn't have a whole lot of success with him, and part of it was because I was dumb and didn't know how to use them. But
for any of you listening out there, that is usually the case with, if you have not played Infinity, that is usually the case. You're probably, I'd say, 5-10 games. You're going to feel like a complete idiot until you learn everything that army does. Because there's so much stuff that they can and cannot do.
Right. I mean, for Ariadna, the way he played it, it was everything is camo and cheap special weapons. So bringing 3 sniper rifles and 17 orders or something like that in 2 groups, and just lots and lots of camo. I think it was at least 6 camo guys plus a camo anti-boat assault squad.
Yeah.
It was pretty brutal. And I was taking a more elite list, so they just swarmed the shit out of me. But it was fun. I still ended up winning through scenario. We were playing some of the new 2016 IGS missions, and this one was I can't remember the name of the mission now, but it's the one with, excuse me, 3 antennas right
Well, there's only one way to find out, and that's to put it out there.
That's true.
Expose your nakedness to the rest of the internet, Austin Thompson. And by nakedness, I mean you're playing of small models on tables, you bunch of perverts. But
Right.
yeah, I would. That's what I would do, man. Honestly, if I was playing more games, I would probably be doing it a lot more. My biggest problem right now is I'm not playing a ton of games, mainly because I don't have time.
I can respect that.
So once I get all this stuff painted, I know I talked about it on first episode for any of you that are listening and you're wondering what the hell it is I'm talking about. I got a lot of stuff going on my desk right now, so once I get all this stuff painted, yes, I'll be playing a hell of a lot more games. However, I just need to get there. So you guys have been playing quite a bit of Infinity. I know you guys mentioned you are looking at getting back into 40K, but you were dabbling along the lines of Kill Team.
Yeah, I'm much more interested in the skirmish game these days, with very few exceptions. Kings of War is definitely a large-scale game that has my interest at the moment, mostly because of how fast and easy it is to play. You could have a game of Kings of War wrapped up inside of an hour easy, if everybody knows what they're doing, especially. And also, not to just go on a mantic tear here, but I'm also really interested in the new rule set that they just released for Fire Team, which is the mid-tier, Dead Zone game. You got, Dead Zone is the tiny little game. Firefight is the medium-sized game that's more akin to like 40K, and then you have the Warpath. Is that the name of the full-size game now?
Yes.
And you have Warpath up at the top, which is more like an apocalypse game, but it's played with the same kind of fast-paced rule set that Kings of War is played by. So you've got groups of things activating at a time and moving potentially on movement trays. It looked like from their previews of things that they were going to be on essentially card-sized movement trays, almost like if you've ever played any like 10 millimeter or 16 millimeter World War II games like Flames of War, you've got multiple infantry on a stand. Think about that, except bring it up to 28 millimeter scale. So you're moving whole stands of infantry around at a time instead of individual models to position.
Right.
Which I think is pretty interesting, and I don't know if it's really been done at that scale before.
None that I can remember.
Go ahead.
None that I can remember as far as games go, but if any of you out there listening know of any games that 28 to that 32 millimeter scale that's not a fantasy game, so I'll throw that out there now because everyone's going to go, well, that's easy, that's Warhammer Fantasy. Of more of a near future or futuristic game that actually puts 28 millimeter models on a movement tray, definitely let me know. Either comment on our Facebook page or comment on our actual podcast.com page and let me know because I'd definitely be interested in knowing more about it.
Yeah. But yeah, those are definitely the games that I'm interested in that aren't super small scale. But yeah, 40K feels to me like I want it. I love the world building that they've done. I think that the Warhammer 40K universe is a pretty cool place with lots of neat stories. But I think the problem really is the sort of sprawling game style that has become the norm for it. Just is absolutely wildly unbalanced, and that shouldn't be news to anybody. But I think that through house ruling and through a smaller gameplay size, it wouldn't be impossible to make that game something that I could really love again. And I don't want to dislike any game. I want to like everything. It's just a matter of is it good enough for me to like? And 40K has for all of its beautiful blemishes, they are still blemishes. They've let power creep go to
New hotness trumps all.
Yeah, I mean, you got people who are buying whatever the new army is, regardless of whether they want it or not, because they want to win games. And, you know, that's great for GW's bottom line, but it's not very good for player retention, because, you know, somebody actually coughs up the money to buy something, and by the time they get it assembled and painted and everything, even if they bought the brand newest new thing since New came to Newtown when they bought it, you know, by the time it's already ready to go, you know, there's already 2 or 3 codexes out, and now, you know, you've got, it's basically just wait till it comes back around to you again, which honestly doesn't take as long as it used to. It used to be, you know, 6 years in between codex releases for a particular faction, and now it's like 6 months.
Yeah, well, tell that to orc players right now.
Fair enough. But, you know, if you play any Imperium stuff, there is a new hotness coming out like every other month. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Says, I actually... Yeah, I was going to say, I actually, just the other day, I was popping around on the GW website, and I was looking at the Skitari, because I was wondering, like, who the hell are these guys? So fair warning to everybody out there, I know enough about GW's, or the 40K's backstory. I am a diehard Dark Angels player, and I've always loved the fluff. But the new stuff that's come out, I'd say in the last year and a half, I haven't really had a chance to catch up on. So when people were mentioning the Skitari, I was wondering what the hell they were talking about. I thought it was an alien race, and I was horribly wrong when I went on the website and saw that. So, you know, forgive me for sounding like a moron, but I haven't been paying that much attention. And so when I finally saw them, I was like, wow, these guys look really cool.
Yeah, I mean, that is kind of the army that I've been waiting to see for quite some time now. You know, I bought a good number of them when they came out. We were in the middle of doing a 40K slow grow league at the time when they came out, and I kind of went all in on them. I didn't honestly buy that much points-wise, but, you know, I have 40 or 50 of the infantry and a couple of the walkers and things. Yeah, for those of you who may know them by a better name, this is one of the branches of the Adeptus Mechanicus. So you've got lots of tech priest-looking guys and lots of cool technology and they're just really awesome-looking models. And they've got lots of cool powers, too. They just don't have a whole lot of options when it comes to different types of infantry or different types of units. I think every force organization slot in the Skitari book only has 2 options, and they have no HQ because they are designed by committee, essentially.
Wow. Okay, so I didn't know that. That's news to me. Because I remember looking at the models and just reading some of the fluff that they have, you know, obviously in the descriptors. It seemed to me like the Skitari were very much like this Mechanicum army that was like, anything you can do, I can do better. I just don't have a lot of it.
Yeah. Well, there's 2 branches to the AdMech army right now. You've got the Cult Mechanicus, and you've got the Skitari. And the Cult Mechanicus are the more mechanized guys, and the Skitari are the more infantry-heavy guys. And, you know, you can ally them together, and putting them together into one army makes it feel like it's a little bit more of a filled-out kind of force org thing. I'm not as well versed on Cult Mechanicus because I don't really play any of those. It's all Skitari for me. But I think that they're the same, and then they don't have any HQ. No, that's not true. I think there is. I'm trying to think of his name now. He's like a big tech priesty guy on a 40 mil base. But yeah, I think he's an HQ of some kind. But honestly, I felt like a lot of those models for Cult Mechanicus were really goofy. Whereas the just AdMech trooper guys look neat. You kind of have these weird bubble robots and like tank robot things for Cult Mechanicus that just didn't resonate with me so well. So I kind of stayed away from them for the most part.
Yeah. For our listeners out there, if you've clearly noticed at this point, we have been noobing our way through it. So if you have any type of like high-level thought or comments or insults you want to sling our way, please feel free to do so.
Yeah, we are by no means experts on all things 40K. I love the story stuff, and I play some, but I think I speak for both of us that neither of us are super experts here.
No, not at all. But I know with their specialist games, since we are kind of on a bit of a 40K kick here on this last little bit that we've been talking, I know that they just mentioned they're doing Death World again, which is their kind of Matchbox-sized car racing game. It's like Mad Max meets Thunderdome. So they just or not Death World, Dark Future, I think is the name of it. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, everybody out there. I know they just mentioned it on Bell of Lost Souls. I just don't have it up in front of me. So they mentioned that, and then I know that they did state that they were going to be bringing back out Necromunda, and they were going to be bringing back out Mordheim and Blood Bowl.
Do you know, are they going to do like box set stuff for that, or have they said yet? Or are
They haven't really said. All they said is we're going to be bringing it back. So,
okay.
And out of everything that I really wish that they would bring back is probably Inquisitor. I know I've mentioned it a couple times, probably in the first episode. Inquisitor, back in the day when that first came out, was my game. The idea of the Inquisition in 40K, the 40K universe, has always been one of the coolest things that I've seen, because I like a lot of the more clandestine, we're a ragtag group of people running around trying to solve problems, either with fists or guns or, power armor, or just running the hell away. And for the longest time, I played Inc. 28, which was taking the Inquisitor rules and converting it down to the 28 millimeter, because when Inquisitor first came out, it was in 54 mil, which was impossible to find terrain for. Right. So if they relaunch Inquisitor in the 28 millimeter scale, to be honest with you, I will go balls deep into that, and that will be my game for quite some time.
I think that they will reach a whole other group of wargamers than what are normally interested in just 40K. You're going to have people who are, mercs and Infinity players interested in GW properties again, in a way that they haven't seen in probably half a decade now.
Right. Yeah, definitely. It's definitely exciting times. I know this podcast, we try to focus more on the littler guys like yourself, but we can't really escape the 800-pound gorilla. So
yeah, nobody's out from under the shadow of Games Workshop completely.
No. So yes, they're going to be brought up time and time again, and I still play GW products. I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't. But yeah, my interest definitely falls more into the independent skirmish games. So
yeah, I think it's more just a time and dollars commitment problem. Is that to stay competitive and to stay in the know, you've got to be spending a lot of money, even if you're not buying models and you're just buying code speed, to stay informed on the rest of the game and what you might come up against. You're spending, probably, $50, $60 on a codex once a month, once every other month.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's honestly a pretty serious commitment for a lot of people. I mean, I guess you could just troll the forums and get little tidbits here, but I'd rather know the details of what's going on with other armies. And, when I was really hot and heavy into 40K, I was buying every codex that came out. That gets expensive. And, of course, there's at least one model in every single release that I'm like, oh, I got to have one of those just to paint it. That'd be fun. So there's that, too. That kid's probably $100 damn dollars.
Yeah, wargaming sneaks up on you quickly. If you are not paying attention to what you're doing, next thing you know, you will be living in a cardboard box, but you'll have plenty of models. So, yeah. Word to all you new players out there, budget.
I thought we were trying to promote the community.
Oh, no, we are, but I also don't want people to be destitute and homeless. So,
yeah, well, let's not contribute to the homelessness, problem in the U.S.
Exactly. We are looking out for you. Skirmish Supremacy is looking out for you, the war gamers. We do not want you to be homeless. There's my PSA for the day, damn it.
The more you know, Tim.
Yeah, exactly. The more you know. Rainbows and shit. But anyway, Austin, I do appreciate you coming on. I do gotta get this wrapped up. But yeah, so again, plug your Kickstarter one more time. Let everybody know where they can go to log on and find it, and give out your web store address again, so that way everybody knows exactly where they're looking. They've been hearing it from me.
Yeah. The new web store address is deathraydesigns.com. You can still go to brushforhire.com, and it'll just redirect you to Death Ray Designs. At the bottom of the page is a Kickstarter link, or you can click the big Kickstarter banner right in the middle of the page, and it will take you to a preview page of all the stuff that's going on the Kickstarter. You can also just go to Kickstarter.com and do a search for Death Ray Designs or Rapid Vanguard or Black Site X, and that'll take you. It'll show up. It'll be the first item in the list if you look for any of those. Yeah, come pledge and get some cool terrain. Help us fund this project to make it possible to get our stuff into stores near you, so that you can avoid shipping time and shipping costs. It's a win-win. Help us keep prices low and competitive, and get some cool stuff while you're doing it.
There you go, folks. There it is. Well, Austin, again, thanks for coming on, man. It's always fun talking with you.
All right, thank you.
All right, have a good one.
You too.
Bye.